Hello, hello, everyone. We have an amazing guest speaker today. It's Michelle. It's actually our second interview. Hello, Michelle. So,
Hi.
I so I want to start. We're going to talk about sex, sexuality, sensuality, intimacy. So it's really amazing to have Michelle here today. And I got your questions as well. So I'm going to ask those questions to her as well. And she said that she can happily answer your questions in the comments below during the interview. So, very short, very brief introduction about me. Hello, everyone. It's Petek. I'm your vaginismus healing facilitator. I help women with vaginismus overcome their condition so that they can have pain-free penetration and feel complete and confident. I had this condition and I lived with the vaginismus for more than 10 years also, and I got cured of it. And a very short also announcement that I have for you. We have a free workshop on the 17th of April on Saturday. So we're going to talk about how to overcome vaginismus and feel complete. It is a free workshop. I'm going to put the registration link down there somewhere. So yeah, enough about me and the announcements. So let's begin. Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing
It's
pretty, yeah, I'm
amazing.
doing good. Yeah.
It's amazing to have you here again. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do? Who do you help with?
Yeah. So I am a Tantric body love coach. And what that means is that I help women to explore their sexuality from a sacred sexuality perspective. And especially with a focus on overcoming the body image piece that often
Mm.
prevents us from being willing or feeling worthy of even being fully sexually expressed women.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
like so much body judgment, and this could be, from the ways that your body is numb and doesn't perform or feel what you think it should feel, as well as judgment around like what a womanly body is supposed to look like and what a sexy body
yeah.
is, and all of these judgments and things that keep us from feeling our own like sexual like juiciness and energy, and like
Yeah.
being willing to fully explore that in the way that we would if we felt that we could and felt safe to and felt that we would be accepted. And then on the flip side, sometimes we feel like if we embody those things, we'll get unwanted attention, right? Or that it's or
Yeah.
make other women feel bad about themselves or whatever. So so it's about really finding that authentic sexuality for yourself,
Okay.
and overcoming the body judgment barriers that keep you from enjoying it.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So, what does there's a lot of things going on
Yeah.
here now. Okay. So, what does female sexuality mean? And
Mm.
why is it too taboo to talk about it, Michelle? What do you think?
Yeah. So I'll start with the taboo piece. Uh, Female sexuality is just super, super powerful and wild. And that power and wildness is hard for a patriarchal world to
Yeah.
accept because everything is about control. Um, and anything that's mysterious and magical and deep is either dismissed or made to be like bad and evil and something to be controlled and to like it's like what happened with calling women witches and things, right? Like
Yeah.
it's all kind of part of the same oppression of what's feminine, like real feminine power, and the sexual, how it's reflected in our sexual energy. So female sexuality is uh, different than men's in a few different ways. And I'll try to make this really short. So one of the things is that masculine sexual energy starts in the genitals and then can move through the rest of the body. But like
Yeah.
when you want to turn
Good
a
to
man
mention.
on, like you start, yeah, yeah, you start there. And then female sexuality tends to be activated from the outside, and then the last thing to be ready is the yoni, you know, is
Hmm.
pussy. And so it's like relaxing the rest of the body, having things touched, and especially working with the heart space and the breast. Like these are all ways that you get the yoni to be open and willing to be receptive and to feel sexual and to have that sexual energy flow. So that's one way that female sexual energy is different than masculine, and with female sexuality as well, it doesn't respond very well to goal oriented energy. So the masculine does, you know, like a lot of guys are like, the goal is orgasm, right? But with female sexual energy, there needs to be more spaciousness and timelessness, and then orgasm can happen as well, and that's wonderful, right? But it doesn't operate well when there's a time limit or pressure or expectation even. It's like the journey and the being present to the sensations and feeling what needs to be felt and allowing things to move through and feeling very surrendered to what is tends to lead to the most like satisfying, amazing types of orgasmic experiences, because yeah, feminine energy just doesn't it needs that, it needs to know that whatever is true will be honored, and that requires like space and time to be fully expressed and to feel what needs to be felt and to not feel if that's also, you know, what's real in the moment. So okay, I'll stop there. Hope that answered. Cut myself off.
Okay, we just talked before this interview that every question is going to take around 3 minutes, so Michelle knows that. Okay, yeah. So it's also requires so much connection with our body as well, right? To feel our senses as well. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And for so many women, it's tough. You know, we get in our heads, we're thinking about just life stuff, you know, or how we look or whatever in sex, and it can be so difficult to really get back into the body. And so yeah, so it's just another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, to enjoy that moment, especially for women with vaginismus. Oh, is it going to happen? Am I going to allow the penis this time? Lots of things going on. Yeah. So what are the things that might not allow us to explore our sexuality, Michelle?
I think a big one is fear of judgment. That if you really allow yourself to be open to pleasure and enjoy your own sexual pleasure, that makes you a slut or a whore. Like there's these shamey things about just enjoying your own sexuality as a woman that can come into play. There is trauma that a lot of women have experienced that makes sex feel like not safe or not enjoyable because it just reminds them of what they had been through. You know, it creates this association of violation, and it can be hard to know, you know, if you haven't learned or been shown how to create good, strong boundaries, and that your no will be honored, and that your yes can really be a yes that's also honored, then it can feel like, you know, getting into sexual energy, you're like taking a risk, you know, like this may go my way, it may not, but there's not a strong sense of, if something doesn't feel right, I can stop it. You know, I can pull back. I'm in control of the situation and my experience here. So trauma can impact all of that, and that can really, you know, stop someone from exploring their sexuality fully. And I think also just the pressures that women feel around what, you know, a sexy body needs to look like and whatnot, like just not wanting someone to see you naked, you know, or feel it, or just not liking to touch your own body because you don't like the way it is or the way it feels. You know, all of these things can prevent a woman from really going there, you know, really looking at and enjoying her own sexual nature.
Yeah, true. So what are the possible consequences of suppressing our sexuality, you think? Could you hear me?
Well, I think our sexuality is so cutting. Yeah.
You could hear me,
Oh,
right?
I heard the question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think one of the big consequences is, when we're disconnected from our sexuality, it tends to be reflected in our connection to our own pleasure in general. And,
Mhm.
it's like if you're, and our ability to receive. So much of women's sexual energy is about being able to surrender to the moment, to surrender to what you're feeling, to be really intimately connected um, to someone else, and to have that to feel that love and that connection, and to receive what they're wanting to give you. Whether that's pleasure, intimacy, or whatnot. And when we cut ourselves off from that, it tends to have this ripple effect in the rest of our lives, where we feel like we need to do it all. We have trouble resting. Um, we are suspicious of pleasure. Even like it could show up in things like, um, I don't know, like just not letting yourself feel very good for too long. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and or seeking pleasure in other ways that aren't as like high vibration, high quality, and end up having like a hangover experience of some kind, right? Like not specifically alcohol,
Yeah.
but just, because if you're, it's just one of those, I feel like I'm not doing a great job explaining this, but in my experience it has been uh like working with your sexual energy and becoming more open to that is is directly linked to the amount of pleasure that you allow yourself to experience in a more general way. And also,
Yeah.
sexual energy is like life force energy. And so when you
Yeah.
repress that, um, and especially your feminine sexual energy, like if you're, uh, then you are living so much of your time in a masculine mode that's like go, 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 achieve, achieve, achieve,
Yeah.
control, 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 structure, structure, and you're not balancing that, your life experience with moments of release and receiving and surrender and pleasure,
Yeah.
being connected to your own body. Like, for so long, I know I'm probably over time explaining this, but for a long time I thought like listening to your body just meant like knowing when it's time to eat or pee or sleep, right? And
Yeah.
but when you start paying attention to your body in a sexual way, you learn like, oh, it's communicating so much more than that. I just was never listening.
Wow.
So it creates, it creates more of a body soul connection as well.
Yeah.
And
There's
when
so
you're,
much tension then. You feel tense in your body as well.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And in the the health of your sexual organs supports health of your whole body. So it doesn't mean that like if something's amiss there that you will definitely like have disease or other kinds of ailments or something like that. But because like things happen, and I'm a strong advocate that you know there's no real reason to like judge yourself for having medical issues. Like it happens to everybody. It's whatever. But what it does mean to me in that with that connection is that bringing love and compassion to whatever's going on with your sexual organs, that is where the benefit and the health and wellness springs from. So just having a relationship at all,
Wow.
to
So
this part of your body. Yeah.
yeah. So when I was living with this condition, Michelle, after masturbation, I would cry all the time. Like always it would happen like that. I was masturbating
Mm,
very quickly without connecting with my body at all,
mm,
like a duty, just to have an orgasm and then end it as quickly as possible. And I would end up crying. So I was feeling guilty somehow. So I was not peaceful with my sexuality at all, and I was really disconnected from my from my genital area as well. I was not able to touch to my yoni, to my vulva, when I was living with this condition. So I can understand what it is like to be disconnected with your body and with your sexuality, how it impacts your life as well. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I'm so glad that you said that, because it may be easy for people to think that, like, well, I masturbate every day, I'm connected with my sexuality, right? But there are different things, right? Because
Yeah.
it's the approach you take and why you're doing it and what energy you're bringing to it, And I think, like, it probably taught you a lot to be able to have that emotional release, and maybe that was a valuable part of the experience for you. But yeah, but it's like you can be having sex or masturbating all the time and still feel disconnected from your sexuality, right? Because it doesn't,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, because it doesn't feel like an authentic expression of what it really is, or having that actual connection with your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at that point, when I was crying, actually shame was there. So when there's so much shame connected to sex, how to overcome it? What would you recommend us? It's so
Yeah.
long. You need more time, maybe.
I know.
Just I'm asking hard questions.
Yeah, yeah, I think that one of the best ways is to get transmission from other people who are shameless in their sexuality.
Wow.
Like, I know that I grew up Catholic, and you know, it's we have a pattern of being very sexually guilt ridden, and so
Sure.
I
Yeah.
struggled, yeah, I struggled a lot, in my young adulthood and teenage years and everything, around feeling like in order to be sexually valuable, I needed to be sexually pure. And
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and it took, and then I would, like, kind of push through sexual experiences anyway to try to break through that shame. I put myself in situations where I would be like, I just need to, like, kind of bust through this experience. But it didn't help, because deep down at like a body level, I still believed, like, this wasn't right. This is
Yeah.
sinful and wrong, And so
Yeah.
sometimes you can't just, like, fake it till you make it in these situations. Then what I have found most helpful is what I mentioned a minute ago, which is, like, finding people who embody that shamelessness around their own sexuality, and drawing inspiration from them, and seeing, what is possible, and the different flavors of it too, right? Because
Mm.
you might think that your shame is keeping you from being super promiscuous, and like becoming a person that you don't want to become necessarily, but there's this part of you that's like, oh, I can't just, if I didn't feel shame around sex, I would be, like, fucking everyone all the time or something. Like, I don't know what, maybe someone has a fear about that. But you can release shame and move into something that feels genuinely good for you sexually, right? And so if you are afraid of becoming super promiscuous, then that's probably not your authentic expression of your free sexuality, at this point in your life. Maybe later, when it feels good,
Mhm.
when it feels
Mm.
aligned and right. But you never have to. It doesn't, if the only people you see that seem to embody shameless sexuality all kind of do it the same way, then you just need to widen like what you're looking at, because it doesn't have to be that. There are plenty of
Yeah.
people who are fully shameless in their sexuality and in long-term, monogamous relationships and everything in between, polyamory, etc. It doesn't have to
Mm.
look any particular way. But my point is that if if there's a chance you're holding on to shame as a way to control your sexuality,
Hmm.
then just know that you can be free and fully expressed in your sexuality, without, like, losing all control over it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if sometimes we hold on to these emotions because we think that they serve us.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
what would happen really if I dropped the shame.
Hmm.
Yeah, and again, just drawing inspiration from other people that that don't have that that kind of
Okay.
shame, because the transmission is a really powerful thing, just seeing other people with that quality that you desire.
Hmm. Okay, so women with vaginismus tend to feel less of a woman, not complete, not whole, not normal. These are the common consequences of living with vaginismus. So they can be, like not all women are feeling this way, most probably, but women with vaginismus deal with difficult emotions. After any penetration attempt, most of the women end up feeling like a failure or guilty, right? So they end up with a low sex drive as well. And what would you
Mm.
say about how to get back lost libido and gain a more sex positive mindset? Because there's lots of negativity around sex, um, for those
Mm.
for women with vaginismus. So what would you say?
Yeah. I would say that your relationship to to sexuality um, always begins with your relationship to your own body, like when you're alone with it. So it's going to be very difficult to
Okay.
feel like you are uh, enough and whole and okay, in not being able to receive penetration with a partner, if when you're alone, you are also feeling unwhole, not complete, frustrated. So using your self-pleasure practice um,
Mhm.
to to cultivate that sense of acceptance and love and compassion to your body is, I think, really essential, because then you need embodied experiences of uh, like love and possibility in
Mhm.
your own system to then bring that into a relationship and an experience with with someone else.
Mhm.
Or at least it's much easier that way. Sometimes partners can help us, do um, experience things that we weren't able to experience on our own. But I think in terms of taking responsibility, for it, you can start with yourself. Um, and I also just want to say, like, I understand how, like, yeah, how tough that is, because we are bombarded all the time with this notion that, like, real sex is like penetrative, penis and vagina,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That's
so it's
true.
like, yeah, and it's like there's there's just a very strong emphasis on that, and so I just want to say, like, yeah, it's understandable, but I think culturally we miss out on so much by doing that, because
Mhm.
there are so many other pleasurable, very intimate experiences that you can have with a partner that don't involve that. But I guess that would be another question and another thing. I feel like I've gotten off topic. So uh, can you?
Yes,
I don't
of
know
course.
if
How to
that's a
get
good
back?
enough.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah. You're going really good, Michelle. It's always good to hear you. How to get back lost libido and gain a
Yeah.
more sex positive mindset? Those were my questions. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So a low libido is mm, sometimes what we perceive as low libido is just a misunderstanding of your sexual nature. So this is just something for the audience to think about in their own experience. Like, for example, there's a lot of people, and like I think most women are kind of wired this way, where sexual desire does not come spontaneously; it comes contextually. So
Okay.
it's just not as often, unless, like, except for like early stages of a relationship or something, that you will just like, oh, I just feel really like horny all of a sudden, and I just
Uh-huh.
want sex. Like, I haven't had it for a couple days and now I want it. Like, it doesn't kind of happen that way for a lot of women. Um, but it can be either context of like a special sexy date night, or having something sexually stimulating happen in the environment, or it like it just doesn't happen until you're already started with intimacy. So,
Okay.
like for me, I know it's like I don't often just get in the mood spontaneously, but once I'm in the bedroom with my partner and things get going, then it's like, oh, okay, right. Yeah, like let's,
Okay.
I want to do this now, but I need to move in that direction and get it going first before I get aroused and get in the mood. So that's one thing is that's so normal, and because we like patriarchy, we use like masculine sexuality as the default way that like we expect all people to be, and because they tend to have this like spontaneous, always ready to go kind of
Yeah.
arousal
True.
that we expect women to be that way too, and it's just not how a lot of us are wired. Some totally are. But so
Yeah.
that's the first thing. But when then the other thing that I think maybe is more to this specific audience, um, when you have an association between sex and feeling bad about yourself, or sex and it's a lot of work, or sex and
Yes.
hopelessness, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Disappointment.
yeah,
Yeah.
disappointment, like self-judgment, all these things, like of
Yeah.
course you're not going to want sex. Like it's connected to all of these like things that don't feel good, and I totally would be in avoidant mode around it, so
Yeah.
the yeah, yeah, so
I
the thing with
ignored
oh
my
go ahead. Yeah.
vaginismus. Sorry, I ignored my vaginismus for 10 years, Michelle. It was so hard to deal with these difficult emotions for sure. And
Yeah.
automatically you ignore sex, and I experienced that low libido a lot at the time
Hmm.
when I had this. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally understandable, because you've
Yeah.
got all these associations that just don't feel good in your system and your body. Um, so the way to start to shift that is there's some mindset things that you can do,
Yeah.
right? So maybe some mindset journaling where if you are able to articulate the beliefs around it, like sex is hard, sex is like I can't have sex, I'm not whole, these things. Thoughts are so much more powerful when we just let them like bounce around in our head without like pointing at them and being like, this is what you're telling me. I am
Uh-huh.
going to now, like now I can either reframe this
Yeah.
and say like, no, you're wrong, I don't agree, this is, and create like an opposing belief, a new belief for yourself. It's something that I have my clients do is um, we go through all of their limiting beliefs and then we flip them, and then we make a meditation of an audio recording of the new story, like just everything that's so
Nice.
they can listen to it and really start to rewire the new story, the new beliefs into into their minds, into the mindset, and eventually uh if you were to listen to that kind of thing while you touch yourself, then you create a mind body connection so that your body can
Wow.
actually like
Yeah.
process those new truths and those new beliefs in a more direct way. Because sometimes we can do affirmations and change the way that we mentally think about something in our head, but then our body still holds on to the like
Yeah.
the deeper belief, right? um
Yeah.
so it's important to have that mind body connection. So if you were to just like yeah, kind of brain dump all of the limiting beliefs and things that keep the negative correlations that you have with sex and sexuality, and then create like another list of how you want to feel about it.
Even if you don't believe in it yet, right? That's the
Exactly,
point.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
It's because you can't force,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
on board with something or belief. All you can do is tell yourself the things like we didn't choose to internalize these things. We just heard them over and over and over and over again, and that's why they're in our systems now. And so we have to tell ourselves the new thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But because it's like whatever is the true thing will be integrated much more quickly because it's true. And
Hmm.
so these ideas of unwholeness, like that's falsehood. And when you start to tell yourself the true thing about that you are already whole, that you are capable of so much pleasure, that that your sexuality is so like dynamic and multidimensional, and you don't need penetration to enjoy it. You know, anything that you want to believe, even if you don't believe it yet, right? Like I would
Mhm.
write that down, and start like make an audio of those beliefs and listen to them. So it kind of feels like brainwashing, but in the best possible way, because it's like this is actually
Yeah.
the true thing, right? And then to create experiences of self pleasure that are not goal oriented, um, but
Nice.
yeah. So just like laying down, giving yourself, if you can, like 45 minutes to an hour. If you don't have that much time, that's not a problem. I know a lot of people are very busy. Um, but rather than like masturbating for orgasm,
Mhm.
just touching your body to feel pleasure and to be open to feeling whatever else may need to be felt, and
Mhm.
and allowing that to be expressed in the noises that you make and the movements that you do,
Mhm.
because yeah, a lot of times, creating that body connection is just trusting that you don't have to understand what's going on in your body. You just have to
Yeah.
acknowledge it and give it expression. Just trust, like, okay,
Yeah.
you want me to like scream right now? I'll scream. You want me to
Mhm.
kick and punch and, you know, yeah, like punch the bed or whatever. Okay, I'll do that. And trusting that there's something going on there that's healing and helping to move stuck energy and to open you up to a deeper connection with your own body.
Wow. It can help a lot to
Yeah.
gain a more
Mm,
positive mindset, right? Positive, sex positive
right.
mindset. Wow. So
Mm-hmm.
good. So I want to talk about orgasm, but I have a question from one of the members. What would
Mm,
you recommend women for overcoming fear from pain during sex? Would you
yeah.
like to answer that?
Right. Yeah. So, this is a tough one, right? And it reminds me of
Yeah,
like men. Yeah. Because
it's the most
yeah,
difficult one.
yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like when men have erectile dysfunction and then they have a hard time getting erect because they are afraid that they won't get erect, and it's like this self,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
a cycle actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then it's like, then you avoid, and then when you avoid something, you give more power to the thing you're afraid of, right? And so
yeah.
it can just become this tough thing, and it just adds to the idea that pain is that sex is painful. And you're just like adding to that bank of evidence that this is what this experience is like. Um, so one thing that does come to mind, and I would actually love your expertise and your feedback on this question too for people.
Yeah, I could definitely, I would love
Yeah,
to.
yeah. um, I one and this may not land well for people. Take it if it does, leave it if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, but you can try relating to your pain um, in a different way by at least accepting it and loving it as an experience of your own aliveness. So in other words, like you're like any feeling that you feel, just to be present with it and to practice openness to discomfort. Again, if you don't want to, if it's too much, like I'm not sure, on a scale of 1 to 10, like how painful we're talking here. And
Mm-hmm.
this would be maybe only appropriate for like 1 to 3,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, sometimes it's like in the BDSM community, right? There's a lot of pleasure in pain because of the way that you can learn to relate to it as something that's like cathartic or releasing. And so if there's a way for you to reframe the experience of pain as something that benefits you and that you enjoy on some level, then that could become like a gateway to to enjoying that experience in a different way.
Hmm.
Again, if it's like intense pain,
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I wouldn't recommend that. And you want to feel in full control of the degree and the amount of pain that you're experiencing, right? So at any point being able to say like, okay, stop, it's too much, right? Um, but that's one idea, to draw from like the the mentality and the psychology of the BDSM
Mhm.
community around pain and pleasure to try to make it work for you while it's there, you know? And
Yeah.
yeah, but I would love to, yeah. What are your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, it's a good question. So fear of pain is so common thing, right? One of the most common methods for treating vaginismus is a dilation training. So what we do there actually, one of the other questions was if vaginismus was psychological only. So it is also
Mm,
an answer to this question as well. It is a psychological condition. At the same time, it is a physiological condition too. So we are training our mind and our body together. So while dilating, actually, we are training our vaginal muscles there as much as we're training our mind. So we get to show our mind and our body that inserting something in our body is pain-free.
mm,
Uh, it might not be totally pain-free, but it is, you can tolerate that if, till some part. But it's a matter of being really aware of what's happening at that moment. So while inserting the dilator, we pause there. We're not dilating against the pain because there's already a negativity around insertion. We are afraid of inserting anything in our vagina. There's a fear of pain. So what we do there is to reframe actually the situation by showing it, by practicing it without pain. So we're learning by doing. That's why dilating without pain is so important. So whenever you encounter pain, pausing there and just acknowledging what kind of sensations do you experience at that moment, stinging or burning, and where is it exactly? And relaxation practice maybe would be very helpful, relaxing your other part of your body as well, and then continuing to push the dilator inside is going to reframe this fear so that you're going to show to yourself that it is possible to do it without pain. So then you're going to learn that there's no need to be fearful for pain, or it's not going to stop you anymore to continue to dilate consistently. That's one of the difficulty as well women with vaginismus are facing, that we don't do dilation. We don't dilate with consistency. This is one of the struggles actually. So that's that might be helpful. Experiencing dilation without pain would be very helpful to
mm,
transform this belief into something healthier for us, I would say.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would
Beautiful.
like add to what you had said about the importance
Yeah.
of relaxation too, and like breathing, like when you encounter pain, right? Uh, to try to use your breath to relax into it, but not to
Yeah.
add, not like don't keep pushing, right? Stay exactly where you are, um,
Exactly.
right? And then and breathe into it and relax a bit because pain becomes suffering when we resist it. When we're
Mm.
like, ouch, also no, that
Yeah. I don't
that
want it. Yeah,
right, yeah, like
exactly.
I don't want it, and then it's like there's an additional emotional layer of this shouldn't be happening, like all of that, and it becomes more intolerable as opposed to feeling the pain and noticing it in a non-judgmental, curious way, and then using
Yeah.
your breath to just acknowledge like, okay, pain is there, interesting. What if I breathe into this? What if I relax into this?
Exactly. Yeah.
and just be present. Yeah, just kind of be present to it, see what happens. Because the thing is, like, a moment ago it wasn't there. A moment from now it may not be.
Yeah, so it's a temporarily experience.
Yeah,
It's not a
right.
permanent experience. That's also something that we hold on at that moment. Oh,
Hmm.
it's going to be very painful, and we are just increasing that fear
Hmm.
as we, as we experience it in that way.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, can we talk a little bit about orgasm also? What is orgasm, and how do we get orgasm during sex? That's one of the questions
Mm.
also that one of the members asked.
Um, Great question. I have learned recently oh man, I was taking a jade egg course, like yoni egg, which I don't, probably your audience, like, it's an insertion thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's not, yeah.
Hmm.
But anyway, she was saying that there's like 74 different kinds of orgasm that women can have. And
I
I was like,
think I know just
what?
one.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, that's insane. And I was like, what I'm learning more and more as I study, women's sexuality and tantra and all of this, is that, like, basically your entire body has orgasmic potential. People are like, I had a throat orgasm, I had a third eye orgasm, I had a breast
Oh,
orgasm, I
wow.
had a like an anal orgasm, right? Like there's sexual orgasmic potential everywhere, but let's just be clear, like, what do we mean by that, right? Um, because for a lot of us, like, the clitoral orgasm is the first one that we experience. Like, that's why the clitoris is there, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's so sensitive, um and so, like, that type of orgasm is what we expect the other ones to feel like. um but I'm getting a bit off, sorry, a bit off topic here. Like, how can you orgasm? So I just want to redirect everyone to a website called OMG Yes. So, like, oh my
Oh,
God, yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
And because this is the only place I know of that is, like, dedicated to showing women how to masturbate in different ways for orgasm.
Yeah.
And so if this is a question about, like, how do I orgasm, from stroking myself, that would be an amazing resource to check out. For the question, how to orgasm, like, from penetration, if that's what is meant by during sex, uh, this, yeah, this has its own technique. So there's internally, you could climax from G-spot stimulation, or from cervical stimulation. There's probably other forms, um, but this requires, like, deep penetration, and so I don't know if that's really the question or not. But and then the techniques for that um, would require, like, other like, I could just redirect to sources. So if you're interested in that specifically, then put a comment in, and I will direct to the people that, like, are experts in those types of orgasms.
Okay.
So. Uh, you could I'm not going to give, like, a physiological explanation of, like, what happens in the body during orgasm. The definition I find more helpful is, uh, an orgasm, it has three components.
Okay.
There's a feeling of pleasure, there's a feeling of expansion, and there's a bit of a consciousness shift, however temporary. So it feels good. You feel, like, opened in some way or expanded, and your state of consciousness shifts for a moment in it as well. Um, so it can feel like just a big, like, your mind gets clear. Like, there's no thought in the moment of orgasm. Like, you're just in your body feeling the things. Um, and expansion can be a tough one to define, but I think that's a key part of it as well. And then, of course, that it feels good.
Hmm.
So I hope that helps. And with that definition of orgasm, you can see how you could experience that from cultivating sexual energy in so many different parts of the body. Um, so yeah. yeah, just anyway, I hope that's helpful. The orgasm
Yeah,
question
it
is
was
such a
very
good one.
helpful. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was so helpful for sure. So, how do we get orgasm during sex without penetration? Let's add
Mm.
this also.
Yeah,
I
okay,
don't
okay.
know
So
if
so
that
non
woman could
mhm.
have.
Right, so non-penetrative sex. Something that a position that may work and feel really good is if you are on. I'm also just assuming sex with men right now. This
Mhm.
yeah. So if he's laying down and you're on top and you just ride his penis with like to give yourself clitoral stimulation, that's one way that
Mm.
you could do that. And then of course like sorry, I had a message I had to get rid of.
Yeah, yeah. I can see some fingers
Um,
somewhere.
yeah, just some movement. Um, and then there's also yoni massage and lingam massage,
Mm,
which is a really
nice.
great, yeah, like I love those practices because I think, I don't know about, you, but it's hard for me to focus on receiving at the same time that I'm giving. Um,
Mhm.
so to be very focused on giving pleasure and by giving a lingam massage is really nice, and then to be able to focus fully on receiving when I'm receiving like a yoni massage. And again, if you want information, I have audios for both of these practices. I'm happy to give them to you.
Yeah, it would be
So yeah, just
amazing.
put a comment in. Yeah, those practices are wonderful. And, just like mutual stimulation of each other's bodies and genitals while you're kissing and just like laying next to each other. It's a great, I think at the end of the day, that, uh, that question is just one that needs to be had with the person you're having sex with. Like, how,
Mhm.
what feels good to you in your body other than penetration,
Mhm.
right? Like, and how can
Mhm.
we explore this and use it as an opportunity to add a lot more options, right? Because when people are grow up thinking real sex and the main thing is penetration, it's so easy to just to go to that every time, and we forget that we have like a lot of other options for experiencing
Yeah,
pleasure with each other, and we like don't we just kind of lose creativity around it, I think. And
yeah,
so
so true.
mhm. It's a really awesome opportunity to experience, like take like do breath work together, and try to cultivate the energy flow in your bodies with breath work,
Mhm.
or like I said, the yoni and lingam massage. I don't know if anal play is something that's more available to you than
Mhm.
vaginal penetration, but like a lot of women like get a lot of pleasure and you can have there's its own kind of orgasm there, and so that's something else to experiment with and play with if that's up to you, and then there's also the world of kink, which kind of rarely involves penetration. Like a lot of it's more just about like power dynamics and really getting into the yeah, the sensuality of different
Yeah.
kinds of tools and sensations and all of that. So yeah, so those are all things to explore that are available to you that don't require penetration.
Yeah. Also, it's good to, you mentioned, I think, like to discover our sensuality. It's good to have some me time and just to,
Mm,
explore our bodily sensations on our own as well, or our
yes.
pleasure on our own as well, right? To
Yeah.
discover ourselves a bit more. Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And again, if sorry, if you're someone that's like, I don't even know how to touch myself, like I don't know how to like what to do, because for a long time that's what I was like. I would start and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I don't know how to touch myself. This doesn't feel
yeah.
good. I don't get it. Then yeah, I would just go to the OMGS uh,
Yeah, it's a
website and
beautiful
learn some
resource.
techniques. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know of any other resources on that.
Uh-huh. Um, And just checking in with yourself. If you feel okay with it, if you feel okay with watching them, then just go for it. But if you feel triggered or not comfortable with seeing that, then you don't have to force yourself, of course.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can read about techniques or see illustrations or something instead,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that you need to leave in 4 minutes, but I have more questions to you, Michelle. Okay. So you answered actually one of them. One of the questions were how to involve our partner with dilating in a way that can make it more intimate. So you gave a couple of tips to us, like having a yoni massage or breath work together, maybe, or lying down together and feeling your bodies and exploring each other. Those were the tips that you shared with us. Do you want to add something to it, or shall I just ask the other question?
One quick thing to add to that. There's a communication exercise that I think would also be appropriate and helpful in this. So say that you so that you're like, I would love for you to be a part of this dilation, with me, and it could build intimacy. There's a communication practice called desires, fears, loves that could really help create a good safe container for that. So how it works is there's 3 questions. The first one is what do you want? And the next one is what are you afraid of? And the third one is what do you love about me? So
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So say and the person that's asking the question then does not respond at all to what the other person says and just practices holding space for whatever their answer is. And then you say thank you. And so it's like if it was you and me, I'd say, Pitek, what do you want? And then you would say, I want to be able to have penetrative sex someday. I want, whatever. So you say what you want. And then I say thank you. And then you ask me what I want and say I'm your male partner or something like, I want you to feel so comfortable in this experience with me. I want to have penetrative sex with you someday. I want you to know that this is totally fine the way that it is, right now. And say, what are you afraid of? And like, I'm afraid it never will happen. I'm afraid that you'll judge me. I'm afraid, whatever, so it just creates a space to really get the things out that need to be released. Good. Yeah. And then closing with like, what do you love about me? And then that helps to like wrap up with that intimacy and that connection. So yeah, it's just kind of a set the stage, create the container for it. And really, it can just be really nice to know what's going on in your partner's head in that way, and to have that communication line open. So that's
before
just
having before getting intimate, just asking those questions, or in
general,
I
would.
You're saying?
Okay. Well, either way, yeah. I think like as soon as you move to whatever space it is that you're going to be intimate, that's a great time to do it. You can also do it like before, like during dinner or something, right? There's never a bad or wrong time
to be communication. Okay, but this is a good way just before getting intimate. Also, it's nice. One of the members asks, hate looking at a penis. Just the idea of looking at them grosses me out. However, I like the outer course, and the idea of PIV, penetration in the vagina, does arouse me. But PIV in reality is impossible for me. What to do in this case? I'm married to my husband for 7 years with no PIV yet. I've been dilating, and on my dilator 4 out of dilator 6, I can use an extra small menstrual cup, which is amazing, by the way. But the idea of PIV still is scary, she says. So what would you recommend her to create more positive mindset again around PIV? So what to do in this case, actually, that's her question. Like looking at it is impossible. Or grosses her out.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that dynamic, because it sounds like the sensation of being penetrated is a turn on, or the idea of the sensation. And at the same time, there's like actual penises are, yeah, like gross her out for whatever reason. And so I have a hunch that there's something. I could be off, I could be wrong. I don't know this person at all, but that there's something related to that, like maybe a past experience or just a relationship to men in general, feeling like a discomfort or being turned off by like men's sexuality in general.
Hmm.
That is, behind the feeling of grossed out. Um, so, yeah, it's a good question. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I when I had vaginismus, Michelle,
Mm.
I hated looking at sperm. So I was
Mm.
almost vomiting. So it was so disgusting for me to see a man ejaculating.
Mm.
Uh, so, you know, those kind of negativity is around these issues. I actually don't know exactly what it was connected to, but it
Mm.
was that like it was giving that kind of feeling to me to see
Mm.
sperm. It was so disgusting at the time. But my point was, I hated not to have a penis.
Mm.
In my situation, I didn't want to be a woman. So because womanhood associated in my mind with lots of negativity, so I didn't want to be a woman. And so I
Mm.
it's not a surprising thing for me to have vaginismus. It's just the the way how I expressed myself. No, I don't want anything in my vagina. I don't want to be a woman. So penis related things were giving me feel making me feel this way as well. um,
Mm.
but what to do that? um, so because I don't know her, it's hard to answer this way. I understand, but it's good. It's congratulations to her, by the way, that she's inserting the menstrual cup, an extra small menstrual cup, she says. But it's amazing that she can do it. I would recommend her to continue dilating and being much more comfortable with the largest size and do this dilating process with the partner. So maybe she can have a bit more positive relationship with her partner's penis, looking at it and getting intimate, uh, and experiencing that she can insert the largest dilator as well. So
Mm.
maybe that negative mindset can transform into something, the one which helps her more, involving
Yeah.
her husband. Maybe she's not there yet. It happens, we can hate we can hate looking at a penis or seeing sperm. That's okay. So trying to understand why it's happening also is overwhelming sometimes. Maybe just keeping
Mm-hmm.
on dilating and involving the partner afterwards, and then having this transition would help her to change this perception around penis, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, we're
I think
so
I
much
think
out
that's
of
wonderful.
time, by the way.
Oh.
So
Yeah, no.
for you, I'm just
Sorry.
I concern about you. By the way, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic advice, because there's like the logistical bit, and then the like the psychological aspect of it, and the attitude toward, penises in general. But it sounds like in your experience it had to uh, I'm sorry, I don't want to speak to your like give I don't want to speak for you in your experience, but to
You
focus
can, you can,
first
you
on
can.
I just but to focus first on the thing, like the dilation piece, because that's an actionable thing she can do right now.
Hmm.
Then just to be curious about how, if her body becomes open to penetration, how that may shift the attitude toward penises, because maybe there's something about resentment to what you feel like you can't have, or something along those lines, right? Like if the relationship
Yeah.
to your own body shifts, maybe and maybe not, right? It may
Mhm.
be related to something else. I'm not sure, but anyway, to focus on her own relationship with her own body first, I guess is what I'm saying. To do the
Yeah.
dilation,
Yeah.
and then just see if maybe the other thing shifts as well. Which, yeah.
And I would add to this, Michelle, whenever she experiences that, maybe looking at what is she thinking at that moment? What is she telling to herself at that moment? And just focusing on where she feels that feeling in her body as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that can also help. What is she saying at that moment when she looks at a penis? It would be very helpful for her to understand what's happening around this topic. And the last question. Okay, before last question, I mean. Long way to go. So one of the members asks, what would her advice be to someone who is currently doing her own pelvic floor therapy, doing the exercises, and yeah, actually, I'm sorry. Actually, this question is also like, what if is vaginismus only psychological? We answered that question. It's not only psychological, also physiological condition. So, Michelle, thank you very much. Where can
Thank
we find
you.
you? How can we reach you?
Yeah,
It's
so
important to know.
my Instagram handle is the Michelle Martinez. And then I have a website, michelle-martinez.net. So not .com, .net. And then from there's a bunch of free like videos and
Ah,
downloads and all kinds of good stuff that you can start to use to get a feel for me and what I do a bit more. I have a Facebook group called Tantric Body Love, and so if you're interested in that, comment below. I'll give you the link. You're welcome to get in there with us. And I think those are the main, Instagram, Facebook, website. Those are the good ways to stay connected.
okay, amazing. By the way, we have
Yeah.
comments here. I have no sexual trauma, but grew up in a family with uptight Catholic upbringing. It also
Mm.
grosses me out to look at vulva. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it happens. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing, dear. Yeah.
Yeah. Can relate to that.
So, Michelle, thank you very much for your
Yeah.
time, for your energy, for your knowledge. I'm so grateful for having you here. Thank you very much for saying yes to us. It's the second interview. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that having you here. Thank you very much,
It's
Michelle.
great to be here again. Thank you, Patek.
Thank you,
Mwah.
everyone. Bye bye. If you ask any questions, she's in our group, Facebook group. Yes, we can heal vaginismus together. So she's going to answer for you, she said, right?
Yes,
Am I
definitely. If you, just tag me if you can. I'm not sure if we have to be friends or not for that, but I'll try to take a look at the comments tomorrow and respond.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep the conversation going.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Michelle. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.